that we're starting here, and it looks like we started officially. And okay, so we have Gail here, we have Peg, and we have Andrew. And familiarize ourselves with the workspace assigned to our group, and what are the folders, sections, selections, etc. So I'm going to bring that up here on the Hangout so that you can see that, Gail.
Okay.
Let me read this to you. Or you said you had it, but well, I'm just going to I'm going to share my screen so that way it makes it easier for everybody here. And if you ever want to see us, just let us know. If you want to see Peg, I'm sorry. If you want to see Peg again.
Whoa.
Yeah, it'll go normal again.
Okay.
So you should be looking at here our 15-minute intro, which we pretty much did, and then I'm looking right here in the bold section right here.
Okay.
So, you want to take a second to read through that?
Okay.
And it looks like right here we're looking for how a workspace like this would be useful for them as a teacher and so forth, and what characteristics about that. We have a note taker. Are you the note taker? Sure. Okay, Peg's our note taker.
Yay!
Yay, I know, right? And she can hum us songs if we need to.
Stupid songs.
Okay. Familiarize yourself with the workspace assigned to your group and what are the folders, selections, etc. Okay. We are table 3B. Does that sound right, Peg? We're 3B. And if we're not,
we are now.
So we're looking for a pound of Valentine's chocolates, Val's public workspace. And I think now we have to go to Encompass.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's going to be the second one down when you get to the Encompass screen. And go into the workspaces.
I'll do this guy.
There you go.
Okay.
Second from the top.
This one?
Yeah.
All right.
No, actually.
Oh, Val was right there.
How come yours is in a different order than mine? I don't know.
Go back here. Workspaces. Okay, so we got this guy. Here we go. All right, can you see that we're in Encompass right now, Gail?
I sure can.
Great. If at any time you see something you want to know more about, just holler. We can go back.
Okay.
Now, I'm assuming you haven't had a chance to see this because you weren't able to log in.
Right, I haven't. I logged into the Problems of the Week website, which is what I thought they were asking me to do, but
right.
Apparently I was incorrect.
No, that's fine because actually when we were working yesterday, we found sometimes that if we flipped over to the normal POW website, there are still limitations to the way the software is set up here. So the one I was working in yesterday, at least, some of the solutions had used diagrams, and right now, at least, Encompass does not support images.
Okay.
So we were saying, why didn't these kids draw pictures? You know, if you're reading the narratives sounded like they were talking about pictures, but there were no pictures. And then realized, oh, that's because the pictures don't show up in Encompass. The pictures really were part of what the kids had done. We just didn't know that.
Okay.
If you want to take a minute or two to just notice some things and maybe ask questions or come up like the math one would do right here. If there's any things you notice and you want to talk about or any things you wonder you want to talk about, we can do that.
Okay.
So I have control over here. If you want to ask any questions about it or want us to go ahead and explain a few things, just let us know.
Why don't you go ahead and start?
I would suggest that we we open the folders and show the subsets because there's subfolders inside of them.
Okay.
So one of the things that I'm pointing out here is that the way that you can use the Encompass software to ascribe different characteristics and to sort in different ways. And one of them is this fact that we can make folders and we can make nested folders. So it looked like when Val evaluated these, that she looked both at them in terms of answer or end point, and then also in terms of strategy or start point. And so she grouped answers as just correct and incorrect, which is intriguing to me that there wasn't anything that was somewhere else, like just partial. And then within the strategies was something that was sound, something that was not clear, and then the got lucky, which
I like that one. That's a big group of got luckies, though.
Yeah.
That's a good category. So this top drop down right here gives all the student submissions. And right now it looks like we're on Varsha's. And you'll notice down here at the bottom, these yellow highlighted selections are exactly that. They're selections from Varsha's submission. So it looks like Val's highlighted 2 parts of her submission. And then the reason why I'm talking about that is somewhat connected to that is how the folders are here. So if I can explain really quick, the short answer big folder means there's 2 student submissions here. As far as I understand, I might be wrong here. And there are 31 selections that she has grabbed from those 2. But I could be wrong. Oh, no, maybe, yeah, I'm unclear about that too. But if we go to the correct one here, I understand this as there are 2 student submissions here. And from those 2 submissions, there are 21 things that Val has highlighted and selected. So I could be wrong on that, but
I think the 21 actually is 21 kids. If you click the 21, it'll take you to...
Oh, good call.
Well, I don't know what the 2 is. I
Yeah,
don't
we
know
were
what
trying
that,
to figure that out
what
yesterday.
that column is telling me.
Oh.
But what's nice about this screen that you're seeing right now is that when you highlight kids' work and then dump it into a folder, it does come attached with the kid, so that it shows up. You can open the folder later on and you see, oh, this is the evidence. This is the piece that I pulled out, or I highlighted directly out of their work, and then here's the kid that it's attached to. And you'll see in this screenshot that the comments is empty, but there's also capacity within the software of, Andrew, if you click
let's go back
back
to that.
one. You notice over in the right-hand column how there's the headers, the notice, the wonder, the feedback.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that stuff over in the right-hand column is space for you to annotate, and the notice and the wonder is internal. It's for your own teacher reflection, your own instructional thinking, and then the feedback is intended as what goes to the kids. So while you can certainly write feedback in notice and wonder format, the notice and wonder is right now designed to be your own internal thinking.
This is a lot easier to use, I think, than the former POW site. Because when I had kids do problems on the former site, on the POW site, I had to go in to each person individually, and I mean, I still would have to in the beginning, but you could organize it in folders so that you could really quickly go back and forth, right?
Right. The other thing that that has just very recently been added is when you're annotating over on the right-hand column. So let's say you write a comment to Varsha based on something that she did or didn't do, and you realize, oh, this somebody else did virtually the same thing. I can actually take that comment and use it. I can just click on plus and like tag it on to multiple people.
Oh, that's nice.
So find the amount. I'm just going to use this as an example. Hopefully it'll work. Maybe not.
Now, Andrew, you worked with the software last year, didn't you? Were you here last summer?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a lot different.
Yeah, well, I hear it has evolved, but
last year was more along the lines of, if we have this software, what would you like it to do? It really wasn't
They were
working
they were
at
very
this
much
capacity.
constructing it.
Absolutely.
Got it. Okay.
But anyway, what I was trying to do there, Gail, is the second I click and highlight with my cursor any text, and the second I let go with my mouse button, it will take that selection and add it down here. Oh,
I see that. Yeah.
I barely see it as well. It's hiding underneath the Google Plus Hangouts thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so now what I can do is I can click on that. This is what Peg was talking about. So I'm going to click on that. Or I could click on the ones that Val has already done, and I could type in I notice. I could click I wonder, and she's saying those are internal. And then the feedback here would go to the teacher or the student.
Neat.
So what we're typically seeing is now I have mine on presentation mode, so the view, but this is interesting because when Peg had me click on the folder here, it usually opens up as a pop-up window for me, which is a quick close for me. But one of the other teachers here, it was opening up in a separate tab. So in other words...
Yeah, but that's, for me, that just opened in a separate tab, but that's based on the way I've set my browser.
I think so, too.
Yeah, that's a browser, so that's an internal browser selection. That's not Encompass.
I think default, though, it wants it as a pop-up.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Okay.
Really nice to get all that. That was the highlighted stuff? Those comments that were, those, I can't remember, that middle column.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So that was what you highlighted for each, or the teacher?
They're calling that evidence, right? So what it really forces you into that space of you have to really look for what substantiates the claims that you're making about student thinking, student learning, beyond the you sees what you want to sees, right?
Right.
So the fact that that's the only way you get something to show up in that evidence column is you have to have directly found it inside of the kid's submission.
I see. That's pretty cool.
So I noticed on Maddie's submission here, Val tagged evidence. I think that it is 6 weeks minus 2 weeks equals 4 weeks. This is the one spot where Val or somebody else entered some actual notice and wondering here. And so I was hoping that you would see that over here typically. We could tag it again with I notice, and this is what...
That's a different Maddie.
You'll notice that sometimes there's more than one entry for the same kid, because the way it's set up right now, at least, if they resubmit, it comes in as a new entry. It does not come in as a threaded, ongoing, scroll revision kind of thing.
So how can you tell which one is first?
I can't answer that.
Yeah.
Val might be able to. She's here.
Yes, hi.
Hi, Val.
You can't always. We are also, that's one of the things we're working on, is trying to figure out a naming convention and or a different way to do it so you can tell what is the initial and what's the revision. Sometimes you can look at it and one looks more developed than the other, but sometimes kids just press submit twice and they're exactly the same. So that's sort of a...
Or in Maddie's case, sometimes they submit twice and they don't seem to be connected to each other.
Yeah.
I know, that was right.
I'm like, which one came first?
And some teachers have protocols where their kids have to keep what they did before and then add to it or cross it out, and some teachers let them erase everything and resubmit. So,
Got it.
Yeah, that kind of depends.
So would it be possible where it says Maddie on 2/13/2011?
Yeah.
Possible to just put the time after the date?
Yeah, I think we definitely need to come up with something. We were also thinking of like Maddie 1, Maddie 2,
Yeah.
Some way to indicate what's a revision and what's not, I think would be hugely helpful.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. That's helpful.
So here's what you can do.
Do you not see any of the existing comments?
Yeah, I was going to just show her that.
Do you see?
So, Gail, you see how
They show up if we go over here.
I selected and then drop down here? I got a new selection.
Uh-huh.
So I could type in like I noticed, or actually, for me,
Yeah, those things should be in there.
I wonder why you think this is a subtraction problem. Nothing like that. Once I click save, you should see in its workspace right here the comments.
Okay.
And that's not happening for us right now.
Okay.
I don't know why.
I don't know why either. I'm gonna go check on other people's computers. They were all there.
We're only seeing Maddie. And then I thought, oh, is that because I'm on Maddie? And if I go to Sophie, am I suddenly going to see Sophie? But I
wonder
don't.
if someone deleted it.
But this is right. Right?
Yeah, you're in the right
No?
place. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's scroll up to the top one, I think.
That's,
Yeah, that's where
we
we were.
went.
Yeah. No, I mean, I did spend a while before this work session putting it in Encompass.
Okay.
But okay, that's fine. So one, I don't know where you guys are in your.
Oh, there's
conversation.
more. There's more if we go over to strategies.
Yeah, but those should all be showing up.
Those should be showing up there.
Yeah.
Well, maybe. This is a workspace only. There they are. Okay, so there
Ah.
are works. This is workspace
So
only.
click on that little
Interesting.
wheel.
This
Yeah,
thing.
but there, yeah, and then unclick this one.
Hey.
But that shouldn't be the case because I put some in this workspace.
For this
But-
specific person.
I don't know if they're for that person, but the workspaces.
There were certainly a lot more than what we
Yeah.
just saw.
But that's okay. I mean, I did similar. I did them all.
Okay. So here's the one I just added, Gail.
Uh-huh.
It says, I wonder why you think this is a subtraction problem. And then you see that some of these have a plus, and then some of these have a number next to them, these comments, necessarily. So this is what Peg was talking about earlier. You could attach this same question to another piece of student work or selection.
Okay. And this part, this I wonder part, this is just for the teacher. That doesn't go to the student.
It doesn't automatically go to the student. It's a way for you to, record your thoughts as you're going through this set of
Or
missions, this set of work. And we were talking yesterday about, one would hope the goal of actually reflecting upon the ways in which you implemented the problem. If I start to notice the same thing across the entire set of work, gee, did I do, why is this happening? What did I do in setting this up or not do in setting this up that led to everybody going in this one peculiar direction?
yeah.
The potential to hopefully reflect upon and inform your own practice moving forward, as well as I was saying, I think it would be really cool if after you did all of this, if there was some opportunity to synthesize some of those notice and wonders and attach it within your own POW membership, so that the following year, let's say you decide you're going to assign the same problem, that when you brought it up, it sort of had that little
Yeah.
record.
Had some history.
Yes, as opposed to me going, I did this before. What did I do?
Yeah.
I never screwed it up. What
Yeah.
was it I said or didn't say?
Wow.
So it looks like you have to take off in about 30 minutes. As a group, look at the student work on this POW and think about, discuss, reflect upon our conversations from this morning and how this workspace confirms, disconfirms, etc. So let me just quickly get you up to speed of what we did this morning, and then that
Sure.
way you can try and connect it to what we're doing right now.
Okay.
Doing that this morning. So we started a problem of the week. Max started it with us just reading the scenario. No question attached to it. Had us do some reflections on it, also some notice and wondering, and then asked us to think of a way to represent that in our own mind, like how we would go about just representing the scenario, still not knowing what the question is. Then we worked with our groups, our table groups, and shared with each other our representations. Then we shared whole group, so each group shared to each other. and we came back and, or I should say, as we were sharing whole group, most groups were able to say through their representation what they think they were solving toward. And in this case,
that question, how long should one box of chocolates, etc., take? That wasn't, you didn't have that.
No.
correct.
Ah, cool.
So it was just kind of, we had to make a lot of assumptions, and then Max finally said, yeah, I would like you to assume that two people are eating chocolate at the same rate individually, and then here's what I would like you to work on, and that's what you just gave us. So
Okay.
we went about that, and we shared our solutions, and then he said, okay, now I want you to think and anticipate what students did on this, and how would they represent this, how would they solve this, or solve it correctly or solve it incorrectly, and I think that's where we are right now.
Okay.
So I think that requires us to actually go through student work.
Correct.
And we obviously don't have time for all of these people, so I'll let you guys pick any names you want to randomly go here.
Are these all correct ones, or are they everybody?
You know, that's a good question. I'm pretty sure they're everybody.
This, I think, is, yeah, I think it's everybody.
This whole entire drop-down gives you the entire class. And then, but let's see what happens. That's a good question, Gail. Let's explore a little bit here. Okay. So Val's already categorized these as incorrect. And then this, I'm assuming, would be more of the representation.
It's the evidence of what went
How
wrong,
they-
or where the, you know,
what they
why she's saying it's wrong.
Yeah. And then we could go to correct.
So maybe maybe the better place to look is in that other group of folders.
So the strategy folder.
Mathematically sound. Yeah, not a clear strategy. Like the mathematically sound maybe would give us an idea of the ones that got it right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or I wonder if some of them have it wrong, but they had mathematically sound arguments. I don't know.
That might be possible.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay, so you want to start here then, Gail? Mathematically sound?
Sure.
Okay. So these are selections. So what Val did was went through and selected these parts of the student submission. So we're not seeing the whole picture here.
Well, let's just pick out a kid.
So like Alexander C.
Okay.
Um,
So if we go back to our original.
if I click on any of this, it doesn't do anything. So
no,
like,
you have to go back to the.
see, that's what I would want, is if I click on Alexander's name, it takes me straight to his... Oh,
Yeah,
it did.
the link would be nice, wouldn't it?
Okay, so I'm going to...
Did it work?
Back up. What
I'm
did
going
you
to show
do?
you. It does. I
It does
forgot.
work?
It does. I forgot about that. So I'm going to go out of presentation mode here and show you guys what happens here. I'm going to bring up, like you said, Gail, mathematically sound. There's my pop-up window. And then in the background, what's going to happen is if I want to see Chad's, right now in the background it's Alexander. So if I click on Chad, it will update that for me.
Okay. Now, what I just noticed,
Nice.
because I had mine set so that it's opening that pop-up window as another tab.
That's how I had it, yeah.
I'm not seeing anything happen because what's happening is on some other hidden surface. So I'm sitting here, you know, hitting the same damn thing on this screen, and the other screen isn't taking over. It's like nothing's happening.
Yeah. So I think that's where pop-up windows here are helpful. Okay. Okay. So should we stick with Chad here?
Sure.
Okay. So like I said again, what you see here is not necessarily his entire answer as far as I think. I thought it was just her selections. Yeah, maybe Chad isn't. She selected everything. Okay. Well,
which you can do, right?
Yeah,
If you want to say that there's nothing superfluous and all of this needs to be included, so what she has selected is she genuinely selected his entire submission. It's just not very long.
Hmm.
interesting. As a Well, go ahead, Gail. What do you think so far about?
I'm really intrigued by his his statement that starts with if. I would want him to tell me more about the 7 and the 6 and the 2 and the 7. But I teach sixth graders, so I don't know what grade this is.
We don't either entirely, because this was a problem that was done as a pre-alg POW, but those submissions can be anywhere from 5th grade up through 9th or up through high school.
I like what he put there. I love that he reasoned that 7 times 6 and 2 times 7 had a relationship. It's funny to me that he switched the factors. It's not wrong. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, it's intriguing about why he reordered things, right?
Yeah.
What was he thinking that led him to do that?
Or maybe it was just a careless.
Or or again,
it's
just the way he wrote it down. Yeah.
That's one thing that I struggle with the Encompass software is no visual. So like a kid can't upload an image of their work,
right.
And then provide maybe detailed notes or simple notes, or I think it would be great to have an image and the kid can use like a selection tool and or Val could use a selection tool and be like, okay, here's my note on this part of my work.
Yeah.
And I'm going to explain that. I feel that visual component is necessary for me because a kid might not be able to type what they're able to write or
draw.
Yeah.
Well,
translation.
And even beyond the notion of using the diagrams and all of that sort of stuff that I would go to. For a lot of kids, just typing and just the getting the notation of the the parenthetical piece, and then the having to use the asterisk, which doesn't feel quite right as a multiplication sign, and all of those sorts of things. I wonder for some kids the degree to which that's actually interfering with their mathematical reasoning, and if they could just write it down on paper and do now that we've got so much technology everywhere with all these kids with phones and stuff, just take a picture of it and upload the picture of their own, even though it's entirely quote-unquote text, it's not a picture. Mm-hmm. There's still something different about handwriting it than typing it.
Oh, I agree. And we have open-ended assessment questions in Virginia where kids can only type stuff. And I just really am uncomfortable with that. I don't know that it's testing the right thing, but I'm digressing.
That's okay.
Yeah,
but I think it matters here if we're really trying to do authentic probing of student thinking and authentic, to the greatest extent possible, analysis of learning, then we would want it as much as possible to be getting at showing what we care about, what we're valuing.
Yeah.
And so we want to get everything that's going to interfere with that pushed as much as we can out of the way. And if the technology is impeding rather than supporting the thinking, then that's something we want to give them feedback about, because this is the math forum.
Yeah.
You know these people really, really well.
I know. So I'm thinking as a teacher, this is so much easier for me to use because all those answers were listed in one big list. I could look at them sort of globally and look for things that were the same or different
Mm-hmm.
without having to go back and forth, from I usually printed stuff out because it was just too hard to remember now which kid said this and how did
Right.
that person solve that. So I love the idea that you could highlight things and then put them into a table. I'm not sure that that's what we're supposed to be talking about right now, though.
That's okay. I think we can get back. We still have about 25 minutes to get back to what we need to.
But what you're telling us, Scale, is stuff that they want to hear. This is definitely what they want to know about because they're building a tool to help you do the work that you do at a higher level with more efficiency that's going to matter more for kids learning, and the degree to which this supports you in doing that work means that you're going to be able to do that work better. So
Yeah.
that's exactly what they want to hear, whether or not that's on the agenda. I think that's
No, it's right there.
there we go. And I
Yay!
would actually posit that that's probably one of the guiding things for why did they bring us here? Why are they doing this for a week, right?
Why are they feeding you good stuff?
There we go.
Yeah. So,
The other part, while you guys were talking about the visual part, I think I'm all about literacy, don't get me wrong, but I think an audio component wouldn't be too bad here either, as some kids can just express in words by speaking, and maybe they have an audio clip that they can only speak for 30 seconds, because I know how students can be. They don't rehearse their response, so it takes a while. There's a lot of ums. I mean, just we all do that in general. So however a kid is able to articulate their reasoning in the most efficient manner, those options would be good. Whether it's typing, a visual, or audio would be great here.
Oh, now that he's opened up the can of worms, now that we've stepped onto the slippery slope, I'm also thinking for some of my students now who would actually like to do the YouTube sort of thing. Do an actual. I drew this picture, but I know this picture by itself doesn't really tell you what I see in the picture, so they're going to want to point at the picture and explicate why what the drawing means. And I can see that as also being, especially when I'm thinking of first time or introductory experiences for kids, the first time they experience POWs or the first time they experience noticing and wondering, that's massively uncomfortable for some of them. And so making that on-ramp as accessible and as easy to get into, and so the fact that, okay, you drew this picture that nobody in the world is going to possibly interpret the way that you are, but that's okay because you're going to tell me what the picture means.
yeah. That makes sense.
Okay, so we looked at student work. Maybe we want to do at least one more comparison of student work here.
Sure.
What you were thinking about in terms of anticipating student work? Personally, when I solved this one, I used candies. I just spaced them out on my table. I used 6 and broke it up. Just kept playing around with the possible combinations until I figured it out. So for now, as a student, like how would I explain that? I'm curious.
Why did you use 6?
Why did I use 6?
Yeah.
I started with, is it Tristan?
Yeah.
I think Tristan, it takes him 6 weeks to eat 1 box of candy.
I see.
So no, I just assumed that it was an equal rate. So I just kind of like the 6 pieces of candy stood for each week.
Ah.
And then.
See, I would never consider 1 piece of candy per week as adequate.
Yeah, well, there you go. See, I oversimplified it. Silly me. But when we did our morning hangout, it's a pretty safe bet right now to say that close to 70% of the teachers online used an algebraic solution here.
Did they?
One used
Yeah.
a table, which I found interesting. One used a picture. But then the ones that did use algebraic, once they had their algebraic answer, they did force themselves to go and make a number line answer or some other type of visual representation, which I found interesting.
Well, it's good that they did that. I wish more middle school, upper elementary teachers would do that first, though, and then do the algebra. I just think that it's more accessible to kids if it's presented that way.
This is an interesting one. The different text caught my eye.
LEZ?
And then the fractions are well typed.
Oh. Wow.
Now this is one that I want to see the picture of, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And she even says there's a diagram and I'll add it in once I scan it. So I'm really curious if we did go to the original POW submission, whether there genuinely is this picture, because I want to see her picture all colored in.
Yeah, that's a great explanation, isn't it?
Oh, fantastic.
Mm. Well, I agree with you that it would be good to give them some ability to attach something. And with iPads and cell phones, pretty common now, that wouldn't be, it shouldn't be difficult for them to take the picture. I mean, it might be difficult for us to add it.
Or teacher document cameras if those devices aren't accessible to students. A lot of teachers have access to those now, too.
That's true.
Tech trainers.
Now I'm taking a step back and thinking, what if I'm a teacher and I'm coming to the math forum or I'm using POWs for the very first time and I don't know what my own class is going to do with something like this because it's not the way I've ever thought about assigning a problem or whatever. I just think how useful it will be potentially for a teacher to have access to some of this work that's right here, right now. So imagine if you're a brand new teacher and you can open up with the file that we're looking at and look at a class of submissions that have already been sorted and annotated and commented upon, not because it's saying, oh, this is what you have to do with it, but just to think more richly and deeply about, number one, wow, some real set of kids did this. I wonder what my kids are going to do. And also stretching themselves beyond what they imagine kids might do with this, because I will speak for myself with this one. I know in my first years of teaching, and how are kids likely to solve this? Yeah, I could come up with 2. I could maybe come up with 3, sometimes 4. I never came up with the 42 solutions because there was rarely 2 kids that did it exactly precisely the same way. There was no way I possibly could imagine even all the ways they did it correctly, let alone all the places that they got off on tangents and stuff. So I think about, especially for beginning teachers, just seeing the rich variety of what problem solving might elicit from kids would be helpful for them in using them, but also I think empowering and thinking of, you know what, this takes longer. It is so friggin' worth it because look what happens because of it. And I can see this sort of, what we're looking at right now actually being almost ammunition for a teacher in having conversations in their school, in their department, whatever, about we ought to be doing this work and here I have evidence of why it's valuable with kids, as opposed to just, I think it would be.
I think you kind of touched Peg on the next question, which is informed by this thinking, how would you plan to use this problem with your students? Or in your example, a new teacher. What about you, Gail? Any thoughts on that one as well, or thoughts to Peg?
No, what Peg said made a lot of sense to me. Um, I really liked the way you guys did it this morning, where you didn't have the question at first.
Yeah, that's strong.
I really like that. I haven't done that very often, but I'm thinking that that might be a really good way to get kids to look at the problem, not to try to guess what the answer is.
I feel it's I agree with you. I feel it's either one or the other. You either give the kids the question, and then they have to think about all the things that they are going to think are useful in answering that question, or you just give them the scenario in this case of what happened this morning.
Oh, Andrew, that's really kind of neat. Yeah.
When
So
you
giving them the question, and then, what do you need to know?
Yeah, I think like establish the context. It's based on. I think the question. Well, now we're kind of getting into a different territory. Like, what context does the question have? But I think either way, if you keep it open at that beginning part, the room was just full of conversations this morning. In the case that a lot of noticing and wondering, and it's about chocolate. So, and with adults, I think it's very easy. As you can imagine, talk about chocolates, right? Just like the comment you made earlier.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now
I think it lets kids enter the problem at a lot of different levels too.
All of them safe.
The question's already there. It's sort of, I don't know.
Disengages, or that means you were engaged at one time. You know what? I want to touch base with you on this, Gail, just really quickly. And this was formatted singing. How would you plan to use? How would you use this part of the problem with your students? I don't have the problem in front of me, but maybe you do. And you'll notice there's a picture of a box of chocolates. What do you think about it?
I'm not real comfortable with that picture because I'm sort of afraid that it might guide kids to count the chocolates, and I don't know. I'm not crazy about having that picture there. How about you?
Yeah, that was a point of contention today. We're back on housekeeping.
Or have the box of chocolates covered with Whitman's or something on it.
Oh, we talked about that. Somebody said
15 minutes?
15 minutes,
okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, actually, I have like 10. Sorry.
Okay, well, we just sent the maid away.
We just figured time to clean up and stuff.
Yeah. But the idea of having like because it says it's, at least the version we had was Valentine's Day, so what if there were just a box of, sort of that big heart-shaped box with the big bow and all of that, so it communicates it's a fancy chocolate, box of chocolates, but it's not something where they count, and even I thought even the idea of pushing it past something that they knew how to find the area of, because I think that especially when it's not only the number but just looking at it as an array, for some kids that's going to trigger, oh, I'm finding an area of something, because that's the picture that we use when we find areas, whereas I think a heart, very few students are, certainly pre-algebra students are going to look at a heart and go, I don't know how to find the area of that. I mean, it's probably not going to trigger that in their thinking. So
yeah, I agree with you.
I think a lot of good things came out of having that picture, a lot of good discussions, I should say. So, but then, sorry, I have a few thoughts in my head there. So what happened was, the distraction piece, it's a distractor. Like, some kids are going to think that's important. I have to use these 32 pieces of chocolate.
Right.
And maybe they're thinking fractions now, which are going to intimidate a lot of kids.
Mm-hmm.
So in our morning hangout, we learned that fractions could be used in this question to solve and get a correct answer and make sense. And then we found that fractions could also be used in this question to solve and get a correct answer, but made absolutely no sense. Where someone worked it out, like the person would be eating some fraction of a chocolate every day, which made no sense whatsoever.
Not to me.
Yeah, so as a student, like, I had trouble focusing as it was, so like for me to like think about those extraneous things, like that would be a barrier to me actually focusing on solving the problem. So like for me, I thought of also like cover up the box and just make it a blank box of chocolates. Or
I love Peg's idea about the heart-shaped box.
yeah, right. Especially if this is a relationship problem with Tristan. And
Yes, it is old.
it's like, yeah. But there's a lot of fun things. I think that the great thing about not showing the question at the beginning is you're giving just kind of natural extensions to this question, like that are real world questions, like what is your chocolate consumption based off your mood, based off a social gathering. Like we had a fun conversation with Justin here. Like if you lay something out in public, people eat it slower, like a box of donuts, because they're worried that people are watching what they eat. But if you put it in a discreet corner, like it goes faster, you know, like so.
Oh, that's fun.
So, but I think those are important things to talk about with your kids.
Sure.
If you've done the math a little bit and say, does this make sense? Would it make sense that he would eat the box of chocolates in 3 weeks or whatever it was, right? Was it 3 weeks? So, anyway.
So, do I get to work with you guys again tomorrow?
If you pay the math form, I think.
I have no clue. And there may be a way that you pay them and you get to work with us, but it's probably going to cost you even less to not work with us.
Oh my gosh. Well, I can understand that you wouldn't want to work with me since I was late coming and early.
No. This is all good.
Yeah.
We got housekeeping here breathing down our throats anyway, so we got to get going soon.
Well, I have a husband with a back injury, so he can't drive. So he hurt himself yesterday cleaning up.
Husbands.
He must have done that on purpose so that he never has to clean up again,
right.
right? That was his plan.
I wonder.
Yeah, I wonder.
He's pretty clever like that.
Oh.
Okay, well, if I don't get to work with you tomorrow, this was great. Thank you so much for bearing with me.
Oh, hey.
Oh, it was fun.
We're all on some
Yeah.
part of the learning curve on
Yes.
something at every moment.
Yes.
So.
Well, I'll contact Suzanne and make sure that I've got everything set up for tomorrow morning.
Cool. And if you think of anything else, I think Suzanne is the gathering point for comments and reflections, et cetera, et cetera. So as you think of other things that strike you either about this problem, about how you might use the software and what you would like for it to do because, or even the notion of this collection of work which has been annotated that might be useful for you. Because I'm now sitting here thinking, well, because my headspace is in this pre-service teacher mode that I'm in now, as you well know, but also, gee, is there some time where I would actually want to pull problems out of this in talking with my own middle school students of, these were solutions that came up in our class, but here's some other solutions from kids in other classes, and looking at which ones are related to, could we, think about how to group or categorize or talk about solutions that are really parallel, or if they look on the surface very different, but if we dig in, are they really based on the same mathematical thinking? So having a bigger pool to draw on might be useful for me, even working with middle school kids, let alone with pre-service service teachers.
Well, we do error analysis a lot at my school, and looking at some of the wrong answers and trying to get kids to think about where were they going to get that answer and how far off were they, because sometimes, not very far off, and ooh, you blew the whole answer.
Totally.
So,
and what was it that they believed? What was it that they were thinking that made this seem reasonable?
yeah.
Because it's rare that kids will do something that they think is crap while they're doing it, right? There's got to be something in there. Where's the flawed thinking that we need to surface and make visible for them to understand why what they were thinking isn't correct?
Right.
Right. So much safer with, LEZ and people that aren't you.
Well, have a great mid-afternoon snack. Enjoy your dinner tonight.
On your behalf, Gail, I'm going to eat 2 of whatever it is. Just,
Yay, do that
one
just
for the
for
team.
me. Awesome.
We're
It was
looking out
nice
for
to
you,
meet
Gail.
you, Andrew.
Out for you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye now.